Let me ask you this. How many years did you work with her?
She started, I believe, in 2015, and I worked until
Up to the time of Callan being
2002.
born. Fair to say that you stayed friendly with her?
Yes.
And you're still friendly with her?
Yes.
Can you tell us, did you
Childcare,
observe,
parenting tips.
when she had Callan, after Callan was born in the spring?
Before we get into the testimony, pay close attention to what this witness actually knows, and just as importantly, what she does not know. This is a courtroom where personal familiarity, professional experience, and first-hand knowledge can sound very similar, but legally they are not the same thing. The witness is about to describe Lindsay as a nurse, a co-worker, and a mother she knew over several years. We hear about Lindsay's compassion, her emotional reaction to childbirth, her concern for her children, and even an incident where she became so worried about a crying child and an unanswered phone that she contacted police for a wellness check. Those details are emotionally powerful, but the defense is going to focus on the limits of that testimony. This witness did not live with Lindsay, did not visit the home after the youngest child's birth, and did not personally observe what happened inside the family during that later period. And that distinction could become extremely important. Because in a courtroom, the question isn't simply, did this person know Lindsay? It's, what can this person reliably tell the court about the specific issues being decided? Watch how the questioning shifts from Lindsay's personality and parenting concerns toward mental health, medication, and the witness's professional training. That transition is deliberate. The attorneys are moving from who Lindsay appeared to be to questions about circumstances that could potentially explain or contextualize later events. Then comes an especially emotional moment involving a discussion of a mother who wanted to harm herself or her child and the witness's recollection of Lindsay's reaction to the Andrea Yates case. That testimony is striking because it gives the court a glimpse into Lindsay's apparent reaction to the idea of a mother harming her children. But remember, emotional testimony can be compelling without necessarily answering every legal question before the court. So as you watch, ask yourself, which parts of this testimony establish facts, which parts establish character, and which parts are simply the witness's interpretation. And when the questioning changes hands, pay close attention to what the opposing attorney chooses to challenge. That's often where the real courtroom strategy becomes visible.
Do you know Lindsay?
I do.
How do you know her?
I was working on the labor floor when Lindsay first started with us.
So this would be the labor and delivery floor, and she started as a nurse, correct?
Correct.
Who had already been working there?
Correct.
And she was about, what, 24 years old?
Roughly.
And came in as a young woman as a nurse, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us, to your let me ask you this. How many years did you work with her?
She started, I believe, in 2015, and I worked until 2002 when she went out with Callan.
About 7 years or thereabouts. Did you know that she had a child, Cora?
Yes.
And did you know that she had a child, Dawson?
Yes.
And ultimately that she had a child, a baby that was born very, very recently, Callan? In the years that you were working with her, were you able to observe, I mean, did she like being a nurse? Did she want to work, or was she a good nurse? What's your opinion?
Lindsay loved being a nurse. She was really good at being a nurse. She was compassionate. She was kind. She was a patient advocate. She was the type of nurse that you wanted taking care of you or your loved one when you walked onto our unit.
Did you observe, for example, that on occasion when she would be involved with the delivery of a baby that she would become emotional?
Lindsay was often emotional during birth of complete strangers. She would cry and she would just say that was so beautiful. You could just tell that she really loved being in that setting.
Over those years, right up until the time of Callan being born, fair to say that you stayed friendly with her?
Yes.
And you're still friendly with her?
Yes.
Can you tell us, did you observe during the time you worked with her how she emoted or felt about her children, all three of them?
Yes.
Tell us anything that you recall.
So Lindsay and I worked the night shift together, and often on the night shift you get to have an opportunity to really get to know your coworkers and celebrate things that are happening in their lives or support them with things that are not going so well. Lindsay asked a lot of questions of her coworkers about parenting, simple things as she would poll the nursing staff about monogrammed lunch boxes, right down to sleeping habits. What questions do you ask a daycare provider to make sure that you're in the right place? She was often asking her coworkers childcare, parenting tips.
When she had Callan, after Callan was born in the late spring of 22, did you see her after the birth of Callan?
I did not see her after the birth of Callan.
Were you aware that she had taken a leave of absence from Mass General?
Yes.
Did you stay in touch with her by phone or text?
I briefly kept in touch through text. After Callan was born, I reached out to her and I asked her for her address and how she was doing so I could send her a gift. And then a few months later, she circled back to me to thank me for the gift that I had sent her.
Do you recall an incident on one occasion where she was looking or monitoring one of the children and the child was crying and you observed what happened after that?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Lindsay often checked in on her kids while they were sleeping at night. Again, we worked the night shift, and she had the ability to look at her phone and see what Cora or Callan were doing in their cribs, and she shared that with a lot of us. There was one particular night that Cora was crying. She was probably about 6 months old, and Lindsay never let Cora cry. She wasn't at that point in parenting, and she was very communicative about that. And Cora was crying on the monitor. It was the middle of the night, and maybe after 10 minutes, she started to call Pat, and he wasn't answering. And she got really worried that Cora was crying, but now Pat wasn't answering his phone. So in the middle of the night, she called the police to do a wellness check on her family.
Okay. And while you were working the night shift, is that pretty much what you both worked together all those years?
Yes.
Would that be through the pandemic as well?
Yes.
Would you say that that was quite a bonding experience, being in labor delivery up close and personal with patients during the pandemic at night?
Of course, it was a very challenging time as a healthcare provider.
Thank you very much. You can inquire.
Como?
Now the defense, or opposing questioning, starts doing something very important, narrowing the witness's testimony. Up to this point, we've heard a deeply sympathetic portrait of Lindsay. She was described as compassionate, emotionally invested in childbirth, attentive to her children, and concerned enough to call police when she couldn't reach someone during a nighttime incident. But now the attorney begins drawing a boundary around all of that testimony. The witness confirms she never visited the home after the youngest child was born. She also confirms she did not know what was happening in Lindsay's life during that period and that Lindsay did not disclose her struggles to her by text or otherwise. That's significant because it doesn't necessarily disprove anything the witness has said. It establishes the limits of her first-hand knowledge. And then the questioning turns toward professional experience, psychiatric medications, mental health issues, pregnancy, and the witness's training. Notice the wording. She has experience with these situations, but she describes her training as limited. That's another important distinction. Being a healthcare professional does not automatically make someone an expert on every medical or psychiatric question raised in a case. The testimony about Zoloft and bipolar issues also introduces a potentially important issue: medication compliance and mental health management. But again, the transcript only establishes what this witness knew professionally, not what specifically happened to Lindsay or why. So here's the question for viewers. Does the witness's strong personal impression of Lindsay tell us what happened later, or does the lack of first-hand knowledge during the critical period leave major questions unanswered? The next exchange becomes even more emotionally charged because the court is about to hear how Lindsay reacted when confronted with the possibility of a mother harming her children.
morning.
Good morning.
So the incident that you just told us about where Miss Clancy was watching the monitor overnight, you were aware that the police responded and everything was fine, right?
Yes.
And you worked with her through 2022 when she went out with leave on Callan?
Correct.
And you never visited their house after Callan was born, did you?
No.
You don't know what was going on in her life, did you?
No.
And she didn't share any of her struggles with you via text or in any other capacity, did she?
No.
And as a labor and delivery nurse, and having been trained in labor and delivery, and you said you worked obstetrics before, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that you often have patients that come to you in both those areas that have some mental illness or are on psychiatric medications, right?
Sometimes.
And working labor and delivery, you have some training on how to handle patients that are on certain types of medications, right?
Limited training, yes.
Well, it affects how you're going to go through a birth plan or do a delivery if a person is on some sort of long-term medication, right?
Right.
And so you're aware that Zoloft is something that's deemed safe for pregnant moms and breastfeeding moms?
Yes.
And you've had patients that have dealt with bipolar issues before?
Yes.
And that they have to remain medication compliant in order to manage those things, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, Ms. Brayton?
So your experience dealing with patients that have birthed a child, as the district attorney asked, and are on Zoloft and expressing issues of being a parent, were you aware of any incidents where Lindsay was with you and a woman did in fact express concern that she wanted to hurt herself or her child?
There was a particular patient that Lindsay was on staff when this patient arrived. It was a patient that arrived to the unit that had plans to harm herself while she was pregnant. And we had a conversation. Lindsay was brand new. It was the summer that she had just started. And we had a conversation about mental health in pregnancy and postpartum. And I asked her if she had ever heard of the Andrea Yates case, and she hadn't. And I explained that to her, and she cried. And she said, "How could a mother hurt her children?"
And that is the emotional pivot of this testimony. The witness describes a conversation with Lindsay about mental health during pregnancy and postpartum after a patient arrived with plans to harm herself. According to the testimony, Lindsay was new at the time, heard about the Andrea Yates case, became emotional, and responded by asking, "How could a mother hurt her children?" That is undeniably a powerful statement, but viewers should be careful about what it proves and what it doesn't. In courtroom analysis, one emotionally striking reaction does not automatically establish someone's future actions, mental state, or intent. What it does provide is evidence about how this witness remembers Lindsay responding to a disturbing subject at that particular time. And notice something else. The testimony has now come full circle. We began with Lindsay's identity as a compassionate labor and delivery nurse. We heard about her emotional response to childbirth, her interest in parenting, her concern when her child cried, and her willingness to involve police when she feared something might be wrong. Then the questioning established that the witness did not see Lindsay after the youngest child's birth and did not know about her private struggles. Finally, we hear this deeply emotional reaction concerning a mother harming children. That creates a complicated picture. Someone the witness remembers as caring and protective, while simultaneously acknowledging that there was a period of Lindsay's life the witness simply did not personally observe. Which part of that picture carries the most weight for you? Is it the years of observed behavior, the later gap in first-hand knowledge, or the testimony about Lindsay's reaction to a horrifying subject? That's exactly the kind of distinction that makes courtroom testimony so consequential, and so difficult to interpret from a single emotional moment.
Thank you. All set.
Thank you.
Homo?
No.
All right, let me sit down. Thank you.
So, stepping back from the emotion, here's what this testimony actually establishes according to the transcript. The The witness had a long-standing professional relationship with Lindsay, working alongside her on the labor and delivery floor and particularly during night shifts. She described Lindsay as compassionate, kind, emotionally invested in childbirth, and attentive to her children. She also recalled Lindsay seeking parenting advice from coworkers and becoming seriously concerned during an overnight incident when she could see a child crying on a monitor and could not reach Pat, ultimately contacting police for a wellness check. The opposing questioning then highlighted an important limitation. The witness did not visit Lindsay's home after the youngest child's birth, did not know what was happening in Lindsay's life during that later period, and said Lindsay did not share her struggles with her. The testimony also explored the witness's professional exposure to psychiatric medications and mental health issues in pregnancy and postpartum, while the witness acknowledged that her training in that area was limited. Finally, the witness described Lindsay's emotional reaction when she learned about the Andrea Yates case, recalling Lindsay asking how a mother could hurt her children. It is powerful testimony, but it must be considered within its proper limits. It reflects this witness's observations and recollection, not a complete explanation of every event or every aspect of Lindsay's mental state. There is also an important reminder here for anyone watching courtroom proceedings. Testimony can be emotionally compelling while still having evidentiary limitations. A witness may know someone extremely well in one context and still have no first-hand knowledge of what happened in another. The attorney's questions are designed to expose exactly those boundaries. The transcript provided here does not include a final judicial ruling, verdict, or ultimate disposition of the case, so those conclusions cannot responsibly be added without additional courtroom material. What we can say is that this testimony gives the court a portrait of Lindsay as remembered by a longtime coworker while also acknowledging a significant gap in the witness's knowledge during the later period. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.